Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I am Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
All right, big news yesterday, of course. Tennessee Athletic Director Danny White has hired his old coach from UCF, Josh Heupel, to take over at Tennessee. Let us know in the comments what you think of this hire. Give it maybe a letter grade down there. And be sure to give a thumbs up to this episode if you enjoy our content. But let's get started with our thoughts. So, Trey, what do you think of the hire?
I certainly wouldn't ridicule it, and I think he's a fine hire. You know, Josh Heupel resonates with me more than Derek Dooley, Butch Jones, Jeremy Pruitt, guys like that. Is he a home run hire? Maybe not, but I think he's solid, especially given the circumstances surrounding the Vols at the moment, with potential violations, the staff turnover, new athletic director, and especially, a few years after the humiliating hiring process that ended up landing Pruitt. That being said, I still think Tennessee is a good job. But at the end of the day, it comes down to how well his staff can recruit, and the jury's a little bit out on that element of him in that regard. But I like the hire in that we do know one thing, and we're going to get a good offense. He should turn that offense around. Tennessee hasn't finished in the top 11 in scoring offense in over 4 years. He has a
Dobbs era.
Yeah. He has a track record, of being a quarterback whisperer of sorts. So it's going to be fun to see his style in Knoxville because he's had a good run of QBs. I'll let you guys maybe elaborate on the point about his success at UCF or maybe lack of success and where that falls for you guys. But there's enough for me to talk myself into liking him.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. It seems like, kind of taking the pulse of Tennessee fans, sure, there are some that are talking themselves into the hire or that are okay with it or maybe even like it, but there's a lot that are very underwhelmed. And I hear you. Like you said, it's not a home run hire. But I think the criticism is a little bit overblown. Like, everyone kind of knew Matt Campbell, James Franklin, Billy Napier were kind of pipe dreams. Like, one of those coaches was unlikely to take this job at this point for the reasons you brought up, Trey. So with that in mind, you're having to go down to that next rung down. I think Heupel's reasonable. And so let's get to those UCF days for him. So put up an image here, which shows just some stats about his tenure at UCF. Obviously, 2017 was what he was walking into. That was when Scott Frost was still there. But there's been a lot of talk about, hey, UCF got worse every year under Heupel, which I guess if you're just looking at the record, that's the story you'd say. But I look at it differently. You got year one there in 2018. They go 12-1, which is an unbelievable season. The only loss coming after Mackenzie Milton got hurt in that bowl game against LSU. So he pretty much did, just about match what Frost did the year before. And the next year going 10-3. The 3 losses were by a combined 7 points, and he had a true freshman quarterback. So I think that was still a great year. You look at the Sagarin ranking, they were still just as good as the year before. And then this past year, I mean, there's not a lot of excuses. They did have some opt-outs, but still, it was a disappointing year for sure. They regressed more than you would like, but that's why maybe it's not a home run hire, but I still think it's.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if anybody's gonna just immediately dismiss Josh Heupel, I think it's a mistake. He has had success wherever he's really been. If you go back to, obviously we just talked about UCF, but you could go back to all of his days at Oklahoma. He had very successful. He was coaching Sam Bradford all the way back at Oklahoma and doing really, really well. And then he moved on to Missouri before, like, when Drew Lock was there. The year before Heupel got there, Drew Lock was terrible. His first year as a Missouri's quarterback, it was really, really bad. Immediately Josh Heupel comes in, turns him around. Now Drew Lock, of course, had 2 great years, or I think 3 more good years at Missouri, and the NFL helped turn him around. Then, and then his at UCF, I think that what Michael was kind of alluding to, just because of what Frost did, you can't just immediately think, oh, he just took them down. He regressed. They're not as good, so he's a bad coach. Like, you can't ever go undefeated all these years, especially at a G5 job. It's just unrealistic. He's kept them good. They're still recruiting fine. There's a lot of talent there. They've had fun offenses to watch. They've lost. He got unlucky in close games. I think he was 0-5 in the last 2 years. You see, so you flip a couple of those, all of a sudden it's a completely different mindset. So I think, I'm not trying to say he's a home run hire, never would be, but I do think that since they weren't going to get the top guys, Josh Heupel, I could easily talk myself into as like, hey, this might work out.
Yeah, you look at those SP plus offense ranks, 11th, 14th, and 12th. They always had a fun and good offense. And now let's go to Tennessee and look at Tennessee under Jeremy Pruitt. You can see that the offense got worse and worse under him. That's going to turn around. That 73rd SP offense is definitely going to improve under Heupel. So that's exciting. And, even if there are some lean times with, if there's potential sanctions, at least the team's going to be fun. That's one thing Heupel brings.
Yep.
Okay. So let's get to our predictions as to how this is going to end up. We've said that Heupel is not as underwhelming as a lot of fans think. But Ryan, what do you think is going to happen here?
Well, yeah, this is a whole different ballgame now, obviously, for Heupel. Unlike his other stints and especially his previous stints, this is a very tough situation that he's walking into. This is not a tailor-made team that's ready to go. The team appears to be getting kind of gutted a little bit by a lot of transfers. Hopefully, they're able to get some of them back. But at least in the moment, there's potentially going to be a lot of those guys, and then some draft declarations, of course, as well. So there's going to be also maybe some sort of sanctions. We're not sure how heavy. I'm in the line of thinking that it's really not going to be as bad as maybe some people might expect, or some people are kind of portraying, at least I've seen in some of the media. I don't think they will be. They were the ones that did self-report it, and I think that matters. So I think that'll definitely help them. So when you kind of compare it to some of the other schools, like the other coaches that they've had, you had Jeremy Pruitt, Derek Dooley. I don't think he's going to flame out as quickly as those guys did. They were just a few years, really didn't have much success at all. So can he, but if you go up to the next step, I think Butch Jones was a little higher because he actually had a couple of good years there. He had a couple of teams that finished on the top 25. I think he'll kind of be more along the line of that. Okay. I'm not so certain it's going to work out and be a, home run. They're going to compete for SEC East Division titles, but I do think they're going to have some moments under his coaching that they'll be like excited about. I think it's not going to just be flat. So I think he's going to have some positive moments. I'm going to say he's gets a few bowl games, has a team that finishes in the top 25. But in the end, I don't know if he's going to be able to sustain it.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm maybe a little bit more pessimistic than you as to how it'll turn out. If I had to throw out a prediction, I guess I'll just say he gets fired in 3 years. Even though, it's kind of weird simultaneously saying it's not super underwhelming hire and saying that that's what's going to happen. But most coaches end up getting fired. Of course, that's what you brought up. That's what happened to Dooley and Pruitt. And it's a tough gig at the moment. Like they weren't good at all this year. You said they're losing some talent.
Yeah.
The potential sanctions, we don't know what they'll be, but you'd think he'd be with at least somewhat hamstrung. So I just think it's kind of a tough job right now. You got to play Florida, Georgia, and Alabama every year, who are all three looking very good. So that's my prediction. Sorry, I'm sorry that's not a great one, but
yeah.
No, it is. It's so hard to claim that he's just going to bring Tennessee back. I would love to see it, because like you said, sanctions aside and the current situation aside, like it's tough. Like you're already kind of on that second tier behind, just in your division, behind Florida and Georgia. So, but I don't think they're like so far removed that they can't compete. Like it's going to take them like a decade to compete. No, I think they could do it in a reasonable amount of time. They still have clout. They're not that far off. But I've said it before, and I'll say it again, with all these coaching hires, it is just so impossible to predict head coach success. It might be one of the hardest things to do out there. Like, you have guys you think are home runs, they flame out, and vice versa. So I'm just, I'm going to put some trust into the AD. He knows, he's Danny White. He saw what Heupel did up close and personal. Maybe thinks he can do it. I mean, it's hard to predict long-term success because that just doesn't happen much, but I'm going to give an exact prediction. I'm going to say he's there for 5 years. He bridges them from what most people see as rock bottom. He'll be just behind Florida and Georgia in the East, but he's going to have 1 year, kind of similar to Pruitt. He's going to have 1 year where it's 9 or 10 wins. Year 5, the expectations will be too high. Doesn't pan out, he's gone. So that's optimistic. 5 years is pretty good these days.
Yeah.
If you put an over under at 4.5, I'm definitely taking the under. So that would be
it's a little bold. It's a little bold.
No, but it could happen.
I'm also curious to find out who he fills the staff out with. That's a major piece. I mean, we're answering this question, what we think will happen. Well, I mean, he fills his staff with maybe some not the highest level of assistants. Okay, that's going to change what we think. Because in college football, I mean, we know how important that is. I mean, you got to get the support staff with you and recruiting those types of guys. So it was kind of the Sam Pittman deal. Like when we all weren't that high on Sam Pittman, but we were high on the rest of his staff. And I mean, I know it's only 1 year, but they obviously vastly improved. So that's going to make a big impact here.
Yeah, for sure. Because especially since you say Heupel's got the offense,
Yeah.
You think he's going to get it to be pretty good. Who's he going to hire for the defense? Is he just going to keep Kevin Steele? Which that would be good. Kevin Steele's been a very good defensive coordinator, but it'll be interesting to see. And the other thing is, I'm very interested to see the details of this contract because as we record, those are not out. But I want to see the buyout because right now, if there is the potential that Heupel is just a kind of a bridge guy, that he'll be here for 3 years and you get through whatever the sanctions are, you get through this maybe lean period potentially, and then you're maybe more attractive to the next guy. Because Tennessee, like we say, it's a really good job. You can recruit top 10 to 15 talent. That's it. I mean, that's what makes it a great job. You got a great fan base. So hopefully the buyout is small.
Yeah, kind of like we've seen examples of that in the past. We've seen guys taking over with Matt Luke at Ole Miss was kind of supposed to just kind of get level the playing field a little bit here, let things settle down. Clay Helton, although Clay Helton's hanging on a little too long and for your liking, Michael.
Very true.
Yeah, but there are brighter days ahead for the Vols. It's going to happen. They're too good of a program overall. They have too good of fans. The support is there. It's going to happen. All right. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I have more confidence in saying that Tennessee will eventually be a top 10 or 15 type team than our favorite team, Nebraska. There's just a difference in the talent you can get. So that's our compliment. You don't get any pity from Nebraska.
You're better than Nebraska.
Yeah. I don't know if that makes them
feel. I'm not sure they're going to take that much of a pat on the back on that one.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that was good conversation, I think. So thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on notifications. We've got college football content all year round. We've got lots of really fun episodes planned in the off season. So please subscribe and we'll see you next time.
You've been watching the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and in your podcast app for college football content all year round. For bonus episodes and access to our Discord chat, join our Patreon at patreon.com/collegefootballbros. Thanks for watching.